Sherilyn, I see that you have a wrench. Do hit the like button. Thank you, Gov. Um, so their attacks have been pretty vicious. Their the directed energy weapon bullshit has been awful, and people are moving out. And so I have a feeling that they wanted me to know that nothing's going to change, but there are other people other than the people moving out who are involved, you know, and I'm well aware of that. And so what? So the people move out. They'll just move other people in. It's not like that hasn't happened. Their attacks have been pretty hard. This morning, I ended up getting rid. I blocked an account. It said that it had just been set up an hour ago, an hour before. So it was a brand spanking new account. Left on the vid that I did yesterday, saying how awful it is that I am disparaging the few viewers that I have for not donating or liking. And that was not the point at all. My viewers weren't involved with Isaac Cappy. You know, I was upset because people don't want to get involved. That's why I was upset. And I'm not apologizing for yesterday at all. What you see is what you get. When I'm pissed off, I'm pissed off. And that's just the way it works. But I decided that I had said that I would do a video talking about what happened in Algona, Washington, when I moved there. I'm going to follow through with that promise. I do these videos because heaven wants me to do these videos. When I journey, that's what I get. Is that I was told to do this stuff. And so I'm going to continue doing it. So let me just start with Algona. Unbeknownst to me, my ex, who wasn't my ex at the time, was seeing somebody. Saki, the bad people are here too. And they ain't gonna like anything. The bad people are here too. Because they don't want me to talk about this shit. And so my ex was seeing someone for several months before I ended up going out to Washington. I was in contact with someone who was involved with, she went by the name of Felicity, Pat Goodwin. She was a co-founder of Ivory Garden, lived in Algona, Washington. I suppose I could start with prayer. Heaven, I come to you. I'm doing these videos because you want me to do these videos. I am tired of being attacked by the directed energy weapons. They will attack everything. They are so focused on my finances and my house that it is just overwhelming. I just ask that you protect me. Help me any way you can. That's all I can ask. And let my words be heard. Let people hear the truth in what I'm saying. I'm going to talk about what happened in Algona and the times that they tried to take me out in Algona, because they were numerous. And I do these things because we're supposed to lead by example. I'm frustrated, not just a little bit pissy, and I do this because I figure you want me to. I'm grateful for our brother, your son, Jesus Christ. I'm grateful for the word. I do this because of the word. And so I just ask that maybe what I'm saying compels people to get involved. You know, if they can't like a video, they ain't gonna do anything else. They ain't gonna do shit. You know? And I've seen that over and over and over with more than just me. And it's frustrating. But regardless, I'm grateful for your son. And I will do as you, I will glorify your name and do your will, not mine. Isn't that how it works? And I say these things in your son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen. So, thanks, Saki. You know. So, oh, Jesus. And they're all involved. The shit, they're just on top of me right now. Just on top of me. So, I end up going out to, under the guise of going and looking at a place, a vacation place for my other half and I. I took a friend of mine, Tanner, because I was afraid to drive out there alone, because it was basically a 3-day trip. We made it in a day and a half, but that's because we drove straight through. And so we get out to Felicity's, and the first thing is that both Tanner and I smoked pot, and Washington was just on the verge of making it legal for recreation. So Felicity went and got us a bag of pot. So that, and then I was out there, and the day after I got out there, my ex called me and said he wanted to break up and then ghosted me. So I get out to Washington, and then suddenly my relationship is over. And so, obviously, I was distraught. So Tanner ended up getting beat up in the middle of the night. He left the house, got beat up in the middle of the night. Felicity had to drive me, or I had my car, so we drove to the emergency room. He didn't have a clue what had happened. He had no clue who beat him up. He had no clue. He didn't have any memory of anything. And it was weird. So I'm going through this divorce thing, and my sister, obviously I become incredibly depressed because my 20-year relationship has just come to an end. And so Tanner ends up flying back to Omaha. And I'm out there with Felicity, and my sister gets worried about me. So she calls up the police, and Officer Gilbert Lenger comes to Felicity's house, and wants to do a wellness check on me. And then asks, is it okay if I take you to the emergency room and just have them check you out? He was very professional. In the 3 or so years that I lived in Algona, Washington, Gilbert Lenger was the only officer I trusted because the rest of them were pieces of shit. So I said, sure, take me, I'll go. So I go, and they take a blood test, and the nurse comes in and says, okay, you said that you were smoking pot, but when were you doing PCP? And I had no idea what PCP even was, had no clue. The pot that Felicity had gotten us was laced with PCP. That's why Tanner ended up beaten up by railroad tracks and had no idea how he got there, because it fucked him up. Me, not so much. But I think that they were doing everything they could to push me over the edge. especially then. So I end up flying back to Omaha and staying at the house for 6 weeks while I got the divorce, while I filed for divorce because my ex, and while I'm there, that's the whole situation of I took 120 Xanax. And my ex sent his best friend who was studying to be a nurse over to my house. And instead of calling the ambulance or taking me to the emergency room, she took me to my bank and I cleaned out my account. Obviously gave her money because I don't know where the money came from. Don't have a clue about what was going on that night. All I remember is she tucks me into bed and the last thing she says is, "Goodbye, David," and then leaves. And from what I understand, my sister called my ex and said she was worried about me. And he told her, "Well, I wouldn't go over there because he's drunk." And I don't even drink, really. That's the reason why one glass of wine, I can get drunk on one glass of wine, because I never drink. Never been a drinker. It ends up upsetting my stomach before any of this. And so then the very next day, he calls my sister up and says, "I don't think he was drunk. You should go check on David." Thinking that she was going to find my dead body. I ended up in the hospital for a week. 3 days after that, still had enough Xanax in my system to kill a person. They asked me, "What happened to you the next day?" I said, "I woke up and I had had the best night's sleep that I've ever had in my life." It was weird how it worked. So I was in the hospital for a week, ended up doing the divorce. My ex ghosted me. Then our friend Kat got us together and he wanted to act like everything was, I had just been a one night stand. We'd been together 20 years. It was a mess. It was a mess. So I go back to Algona and Felicity is convinced that with my divorce settlement, instead of buying a house, I'm going to buy her a brand new car. But that didn't happen. I have a lot of animosity towards Felicity because Doug Mesner, aka Lucian Greaves, lived 23 miles away from Algona in Tacoma. She had to have known that. She had to have known that, but never once bothered to tell me. So I move into my house. I'm still in Algona, which is a small town. It's in between Seattle and Tacoma. And so I'm living in this house and being just harassed, harassed. Some people moved across the street, and I'm being harassed. People are breaking into my house. There was one time I had set an alarm, and they had I had ADT put an alarm system in there, but I couldn't afford to keep ADT. And so one day I come home, but I always sat up. I always turned all, the alarm on. So I come home and my door's open, the alarm is going off. And so I went in to check my dogs because my dogs were puppies at the time. So I go in to check my dogs and then I call the police. McKay comes. He's an officer there. He was decent, but I didn't trust him. In the end, I didn't trust any of them. And he came and said, "Well, what did you do when you got to the house?" And I said, "I went into the house to check on my dogs." And so he reprimanded me and told me, "No, if this happens again next time you call us, we'll go into your house. If there was someone in there with a gun, what would you have done?" I would have gotten shot, probably. I was worried about my dogs. Same dogs I have now. So I'm being harassed. They are just, and then they go, the directed energy weapon things got really bad. In fact, there was a 2 month time period that I was waking up in the morning and my whole face was swollen every morning. And I lost 100 pounds in a matter of 2 months. I was actually down to 160. And I hadn't been, I mean, I looked awful. I was down to 160 and I didn't understand. So D'Angelo, who is one of the dickheads, basically was just like, well, you better get some weight back, and started laughing at me because the Algona police knew exactly what the fuck was going on. They knew exactly what was going on. So I ended up having someone tell me to look outside my house and see if there were some rocks eating, eating some of the rocks. And, okay, dude. They don't like me talking about this part. So I go outside thinking it was stupid, that I'm looking for these rocks. But this is Washington. And I had to mow my lawn almost all year round because the grass grew. In the wintertime, it was a break, but still, it was warm. It could be 60 degrees. It would rain and turn everything green. It was really pretty. So I ended up going out and finding this rock that I knew had not been in my yard because I had mowed my yard so many times. Finding that rock, I ended up going around my house. I had a manufactured house, so it was nothing more than a glorified trailer with metal fucking walls, And I ended up finding 12 rocks that had been planted in my yard like they had always been there, but they hadn't always been there. Like, perfect example. It wasn't just rocks, it was that and big pieces of concrete. And what all the rocks had two things in common. One, the top surface was all exposed. All of these rocks had an exposed surface. They weren't underground, they were exposed to the outside. The second thing about it is that they had this weird metallic mold all over them, which I was told later on was called smart dust. And so Doug Mesner, Lucian Greaves, founder of the Satanic Temple, and all of his little fucking minions will say that I said they were talking rocks and they were rocks that were on fire and all this bullshit. These rocks were not in my yard before. And they all had the surface of them exposed. They were like big pieces of concrete and rocks, and the top surface was all exposed, and every single one of them had this black metallic looking mold on them. So of course I found one, so I ended up digging out 12 of them, and they were placed strategically around my house. The 3 pieces of concrete that were right at my front door, and they were and I know that they weren't, that those pieces of concrete were not there because there was a dip. So I had lights, solar lights that I had to put in, but every time I mowed the lawn, I had to pull those solar lights out and then put them back in. It was a pain in the ass. But if I didn't have them at night, if anyone came to visit me at night, which no one ever really did, they could have fallen into my yard because there was a big dip in that area. So I had to have solar lights so that people could see that there was a dip so no one got hurt. And there were 3 great big pieces of concrete that had not been there. So I dig these rocks out that have this weird metallic mold on them. There were 12 of them in total. And I dump them off in the corner of my backyard because my neighbors told me I could just put them over the fence. And because they had an area they didn't care. They said, yeah, go ahead. If you have rocks, just dump them there. So I did that. The moment I dug out those 12 rocks from my yard, that again were placed strategically around my yard, I stopped losing weight. I stopped waking up with my face all swollen, and I gained the weight back almost instantaneously. It wasn't more than 3 weeks and I was back to 230 pounds, which is what I've been most of my adult life. You know? No, I didn't feel any different when I picked up the rocks. But I sure as fuck felt different once I got rid of the rocks. And Doug Mesner, Lucian Greaves, founder of the Satanic Temple, was really focused on those rocks. You know? And whatever they were doing is that they were bouncing. What I was told that there was smart dust. That black metallic mold on top of the rocks is called smart dust. And they were using their little microwave toy to bounce it off to intensify the shit. When this all first started, there was one night I had an idiot who had befriended me. And they weren't runes, they were rocks. Pieces of concrete. You know? Again, it's nanotechnology, but the idiots in here think that don't make a joke out of it because I'll fucking block your stupid asses. I'm not playing anymore. What ended up happening at the beginning, how this all first started, was that I had someone who had befriended me, because they always befriend me. And they always love bomb me, and oh, how great they were. And this idiot on the phone was just like, well, I'm really worried about you, and so I want you to stay over, I want to be on your phone overnight. I just want you to leave on phone. I know that runes are involved with satanic stuff. They didn't plant runes in the rocks are about this big. About this big. They were pieces of concrete that were this big. They weren't fucking runes. You know? Rocks that were this big. They weren't small pieces of concrete. You know? So this idiot tells me that she's worried about me and she wants to stay the whole night with me. You know, busted up concrete. That's what it was busted up concrete. Little blocks of chunks of busted up concrete. That the top of it was surface. You know, the surface top part of it they were all exposed. So how this all first started was this woman wanted to keep me on the phone all night. And I was like, well, that's stupid. All I'm going to be doing is sleeping. She said, well, I'm worried about you. I want to be on your phone. Just keep me on the phone all night. So I said, fine. You know? So at 3:10, around 3:15 in the morning, this bitch screams on the phone and wakes me the fuck up. And I'm like, what is going on? Now, this same night, I was having problems because my 3 dogs, as puppies, each one of them had these weird seizure things. Each one of them had never had them before, never had them again this night. But this night, all 3 of them at different points in the night had these weird seizure things. And so she wakes me up at 3:15 in the morning. And whatever they were beaming at me hurt so bad that I felt like I could feel every organ in my body. And then at 3:25 in the morning, I get a knock at my fucking door. And it's the Algona police. It seems that someone from Australia contacted the Algona police and told them that I was suicidal. So they really did expect, I guess, for whatever they were fucking jamming at me. But then when you consider that the day before, they must have turned that thing on because I passed out letting my dogs in my house. I had a sliding glass door that opened up to the backyard. I had let my dogs in. The next thing I knew, I woke up on the floor. Had never passed out before in my life. And so I woke up and so they figured that they were going to end up killing me with this shit. And they almost did. If I were them, I would wonder why I'm still here. Because it obviously didn't kill me. But, so the police show up at my house. I'm standing there in a t-shirt and boxers, all pissed off because Who the fuck? Someone from Australia called to tell you that I was suicidal and I was asleep in bed. They expected the police to show up at my house and find me fucking dead. That's what it was. You know? Because the woman who screamed on the phone, when she woke me up, and of course she scared the shit out of me, screaming on my phone. When she woke me up, I was like, what the fuck are you screaming about? She said, I just heard someone on the phone said, kill him. And so I woke up to all that. That was the whole first night that all of this was going on. Then for 2 months, whatever they were fucking blasting me with was fucking torture until I dug out those rocks, and then it didn't happen anymore. So then the next thing I go through is that they send Ron Patton, who I had written a few articles for Paranoia magazine, who lives in Olympia, Washington, and there's a cult of witches up there. They're all involved in the occult. He's with some Clive dude that actually was some Clive dude that was a radio show host. And they do all this occult shit up there. They do tours of occult Olympia, Washington, and stuff like that. I can't remember the last name, Clive, and I can't remember his radio show, but Ron Patton's all involved. So one of his friends from Olympia convinces me to bring this woman from Florida who's a targeted individual. Before that, they had sent me this dude named James Lico, who ended up saying that he was a targeted individual. The next thing I know, I'm seeing him print off maps of my neighborhood and drawing lines of sight to all of my neighbors. And then he ended up, the police and ambulance had to come because he ended up having, I don't know, appendicitis or something. But they ended up taking him to the hospital. And the cops, D'Angelo, who's a piece of shit, they come in, McKay comes in and says, you know, this dude seems like he's crazy. And I was just like, yeah, he is crazy. He just seems off. And so the next day they come to me and knock on my door and say, hey, we can't come into your house and search. And we can't ask you to search, but this dude isn't supposed to have any guns. And so we were just wondering if he had any guns in the house. So they leave, and of course I go straight into his fucking bedroom to find out that the dude had, not only did he have a fucking arsenal of guns, but he was sleeping with 2 handguns with 2 loaded clips with the handgun. What was the last thing you guys heard? I just put on my Wi-Fi. I'm not surprised I'm buffering. Funny how it works that way. You know? So he had guns with loaded clips in his bed. And he had this bunk bed. Just I want to know that you guys are getting this now. I'm not surprised because they don't want me talking about any of this. So he had 2 guns with 2 loaded clips in his bed, which pissed me the fuck off because I had 3 puppies in the house. My dogs were puppies at the time. And I was thinking, and my office was right across the hallway from him. And it was a small house. And so it was a manufactured home. It was 1,200 square feet. And so I was afraid that he would wake up and shoot across the hall from him in my office, and he would have shot me too. So just keep me informed if it's working, because otherwise I'll just start a new one. They don't want me talking about any of this shit. Sherilyn, you know how to check me. So I end up throwing him out. Well, then Ron Patton, this Paranoia magazine dude, his friend convinced me to bring this woman up from Florida. She was a targeted individual. So my friend and I, Richie, who is a retired Vietnam vet, we go pick her up at the airport on a Thursday. And so we go because she was hungry, so we go to a restaurant. I have to go to the bathroom. I come back. Richie's already kind of freaking out. Come to find out, she had made a pass at Richie. She hadn't even been in town for 45 minutes and was talking about sleeping in his bed. He was totally freaked out. So she comes to my house on Friday. We help her to go to social services and social security so she can change all of her shit because she was getting away from Florida. And here I am thinking, okay, I'm helping her. She ended up making my life hell. Like, a big thing in Washington is cherries. They have these Rainier cherries out there. So she went and bought a bunch of cherries. I told her, don't leave those cherries, especially the pits, on anywhere that the dogs can get them because they were puppies and they would eat stuff. She did it. She just didn't give a shit, and she was just a bitch. So she gets in on Thursday. We help her on Friday. Sunday, I'm in my kitchen doing dishes. She's talking on the phone to someone, and I can hear her bitching about me and how she's bitching. And so I end up calling the police, and the police chief actually answered the phone. I forget his name. He was a bad dude. He told me, well, make sure that she doesn't get any mail there. And I said, why? He said, because she'll establish residency if you get mail. Well, we had just taken her to go get all of her shit changed on Friday. So Sunday, I ended up calling. So D'Angelo shows up. Officer D'Angelo. And I want her gone. I don't give a shit where she goes. I just want her gone. And so she and D'Angelo are outside talking, and I'm in the house. And D'Angelo walks in and says, well, I need to let you know that she is looking to try and get a protection order out on you. And I said, what, for throwing her out of my house? I said, I don't give a fuck. She goes. And so, sure enough, after I throw her out, the next week and a half, I have a process server who keeps coming back to my house, banging on the door. Well, I don't have to open the door to anybody I want. So I just slammed the door. What she wanted to do was take a protection order out on me and throw me out of my own house because they wanted my house. And the reason I know that is because Doug Mesner, Lucian Greaves, founder of the Satanic Temple, is emailing me the whole fucking time with all these threats. Say goodbye to your house. Say goodbye to your house. So I get rid of her. I got rid of Lico. I got rid of her. That was when I decided this whole we're supposed to open up our house to strangers and help people, which is a Christian thing, doesn't work with me anymore. You can't come to my house. And if you come to my house, there's a fucking hotel right down the road. I suggest you have money because you ain't staying at my house. You know? Just won't deal with it anymore. So now I can't do that. So I get rid of these rocks. All of this shit is going down. So then the people that were driving me crazy across the street ended up taking a protection order out on me. That's the protection order that I talk about. I talk about a protection order where there was 15 or so videos listed. Not a one of them dealt with the petitioners of that protection order, but only and solely dealt with Doug Mesner, aka Lucian Greaves, founder of the Satanic Temple, who lived, unbeknownst to me, 23 miles away from me in Tacoma, Washington. So I go do this thing. I didn't have a lawyer, couldn't afford a lawyer. The judge gave them the protection order. It was bizarre because the dude who was involved, when I was checking in and getting on, because you go through this metal detector, threw his keys in my little thing because he was aggressive. And then the woman that he was with ended up going and obviously didn't have any underwear on and was doing weird things to the judge. It was bizarre. So right after this goes, the judge fucking lickety splits it out of there. And so, but they got the protection order. While this is all happening, Algona chief of police ends up putting Ryan Miller in charge of me. It's the exact same thing as Shelby County, Iowa sheriff putting Chad Butler in charge of me. Same fucking thing. That's what happened out in Algona, and this Ryan Miller was involved. This Ryan Miller, in Washington, they have these mental health professionals they can bring to your house. I wouldn't fucking open the door for him and those people. Wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do it. Wouldn't open the door. But in the end, Ryan Miller said that I violated the protection order because they parked outside. They were on the street, but they were right in front of my driveway. I had 2 lots of land in Algona, and my house was at the very back of that. So I had a long driveway, and I was sitting outside when that happened, and I flipped them off and walked into the house. That's how Ryan Miller said that I broke that protection order. So I end up having to go, but by that time I knew that shit wasn't gonna stop, so I put my house up for sale. So I end up putting my house up for sale, but then shit went down. So Officer Gilbert Lenger, showed up to my house and said, look, can I bring the mental health professional people to your house just to cross the T's and dot the I's? Because it was Lenger, I said, yes. If you're here with them, you can bring them to my house. So a guy and it was 2 girls. One was a transsexual. And they come and sit in my living room. They were there for an hour and a half. The transsexual, the woman, loved Lucy because I had Lucy by then. And so she was holding Lucy and giving Lucy love and all of that. And they ended up telling me that I had wonderful coping skills. It went wonderful. So when I had to go to court, the Algona police wouldn't give me that report. They said that it hadn't been filed yet. But I knew that it was a good report because they had said that. So I'm kind of jumping around here. So I'm going to backtrack a bit and talk about Felicity. So Felicity buys us this bag of pot. It's laced with PCP. Tanner goes home. I end up flying back, getting a divorce, coming back. But I helped set up the first Ivory Garden trauma conference that was at I think it was the Radisson. It was in where the airport is. It was right by the airport. And so we ended up going and having this, I can't smoke right now. I have no money. No money. I would have pot. It would have made things, it would make things way easier, but I do not have money. And asking for donations is a worthless cause. That's why it's worthless. Anyway, so I end up going to the first Trauma and Dissociation Conference. That's where I met Amber Volatin, who was with Lori King. Because Lori King was there with her entourage. But Lori King didn't help set up the conference because she and Felicity had issues. And so it was just Felicity setting up this conference. I had a lot to do with it. In fact, a therapist friend that I was a friend was not my therapist, ended up flying from Omaha in so she could talk at this conference. And so I'm at this Survivor conference this weekend. I meet Amber Volatin, who is a transsexual, who is with Lori King. They have their own little entourage. Felicity has done a hatchet job on all of me. So my friend ends up leaving. She talks, and then she leaves. And at the end, Felicity had rented the penthouse for everyone to go up, because by this time, recreational pot is legal, and survivors are just getting up there to just go. So I go up to that thing. Boy, wouldn't have fucking Doug Mesner, aka Lucian Greaves, founder of the Satanic Temple, loved what would happen next. Because my experience at that conference was so bad that I went up to the penthouse and stood on the balcony of the penthouse, and it took me 20 minutes to give myself a reason why I didn't want to jump off of the balcony. Because I had sacrificed everything. My 20-year relationship was over because of all this bullshit that I was trying to expose. I had been just moved out to Washington, didn't really know anybody. My whole life had crashed. And I gave it all up to fight for survivors who didn't give a shit about me. And I stood up there for 20 minutes trying to give myself a reason, because I had trashed my life for a bunch of ungrateful fucking bitches. I finally did, obviously, give myself some credit, and so I ended up surviving it. But then the second year they had the conference, that was when they brought Felicity, or not Felicity, but Fiona from Australia. But Fiona and I never met each other because they didn't want us to get together. So they kept Fiona. So Fiona is in Algona and in Tacoma. They're setting her up. She's the one who figured out that Doug Mesner was there because she was told that Doug Mesner was in Tacoma. That's how I found out that Doug Mesner was in Tacoma. It was a mess for her. But the second year that they had this conference, that's when Amber Volatin drove 3 states over, showed up at Lori King's house unbeknownst, got Lori King, drove 3 states back to Amber Volatin's house, and the Sunday that they were concluding the last day of the second annual trauma conference, that was when Lori King committed suicide. That was when it happened. Same fucking day. And then later on, Amber Volatin went online and started telling survivors how she was the one who forced Lori to take all the pills because it had to be her. So she bragged about getting Lori King to commit suicide at her house. Bragged about it. It was all a fear campaign, because that's what Satanic Temple idiots fucking do. That's what they were doing. So that all happened when I'm in Algona. So then I end up driving. I sell my house. At the whole time, Doug Mesner, Lucian Greaves, founder of the Satanic Temple, is telling me how they're either gonna put me in jail for breaking this protection order, and I'm gonna get raped and murdered in jail, or they're gonna stick me in a fucking institution where they're going to lobotomize me. Sending me email after email after email after email after email. So I end up selling my house. And the house that they were so eager to steal. And I'm so crazy. I bought that house for 78 grand. out of the divorce settlement. When I sold it, because of all the work that I did to it, I sold it for 230 grand. But I was so unstable that I didn't know what was going on. And yet I made quite a bit of money from the sale of that house. So I moved to Erling, Iowa. I buy a house, sight unseen. It's an old funeral home. And hated that house from the minute I stepped in. Hated that house. So I get to Erling, and the next day, Doug Mesner, Lucian Greaves, founder of the Satanic Temple, starts emailing me how they were already set up in Erling waiting for me. So they're already waiting for me in Erling. So I have to fly back to go to court over this whole protection order thing that I supposedly violated. So obviously I was going to go stay the night at Richie's house. Well, they had hit Richie already before with that weapon. It was when when I was losing so much weight, and I had called Richie to come get me, to take me to the emergency room, and he never showed up, which was not like Richie at all. Now, Richie was a Vietnam vet, a retired Vietnam vet, and I was telling him how these big ass black helicopters were flying and just over my house, staying over my house. And so Richie, being an ex-Vietnam vet, did not believe me. So this was a different time, but he was coming to get me. He was going to take me to the grocery store. And he ended up parking at the bar that was 2 blocks away from my house and was 45 minutes late. And when he finally showed up, now, at the time, there was a fucking black helicopter over my house. So close to my house that it was vibrating my house. And so Richie pulls into the driveway, and finally that helicopter flew away. And Richie told me, I was on my way and I would have been on time, but now I believe you. Because when I turned down to come down your road, I could see a black helicopter hovering over your house. So I parked in the driveway of the bar just to see how long they would stay there. And after 45 minutes, I realized they weren't gonna leave. And so when he pulled into the driveway, that's when they left. That's the kind of fucking harassment I was going through in Washington with this, and it was all fucking government bullshit. So Richie, later on, when they're hitting me with these weapons, I call him to ask if he would take me to the emergency room, because I thought I was going to have a heart attack, because it used to affect me in way differently than it does now. So he doesn't show up, and I get pissed. So I walk the 2 miles to his house, and I'm banging on his door, all pissed off. Fuck you. You're obviously not my friend. Are you involved with this? Blah, 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 blah. Not realizing he said he was putting on his shoes. The next thing he remembers, he's on the ground, laying in a fetal position, and I'm banging on the door. And his dog, he had this little dog at the time, never had done this before, shit all over his house at the exact same time. He didn't want to be my friend for a while because he was afraid of me, because he was afraid of what they would do to him. And so that happened. So I'm in Erling. So now we jump ahead, and I'm in Erling, and I have to fly back, and I was going to spend the time at Richie's house while I was there. Well, they hit Richie with these weapons again. The only reason that Richie was alive is because his daughter showed up unbeknownst, because he was taking his last breaths. So they take him to the fucking hospital, put him induce him into a coma Obviously, I couldn't stay with them because this is 2 weeks before I'm supposed to be there to go to court. And the doctors couldn't figure out because there was no reason for him to, there was no reason. They don't even know what happened to him. He had no heart problems. He had nothing. They don't know what caused it. They still don't know what caused it. I have a feeling I know what caused it. But they didn't realize that I was going to have someone that I knew that they didn't know about that I ended up staying with. And so I went to court. The police wouldn't give me the police report that tells me how I broke the protection order, because Ryan Miller was all involved with it and they wouldn't give me the report. So I go in front of a judge and the judge asks me point blank, have you read the report of how you broke this protection order? And I said, no, I haven't. They wouldn't release it to me. And he said, well, do you want to take a break so you can go read this report? If I were you, I would want to read this report. So I said, sure, pissed off my lawyer. And, who charged me 10 grand to get out of this protection order thing. So I go read the report. That's how I know. Ryan Miller said that I broke the report because they were fucking harassing me and I flipped them off when I was walking into my house. And that's how I broke the report. And you can go read it because I'm sure it's all fucking legal. The report was taken out in Kent, Washington. I had to go to Pacific, which was a town right next to me. That's where I went to court when they said that I broke this protection order, you know? And the only reason I was able to pay 10 grand for a lawyer is because I had just sold my house. And so I had money to pay the lawyer. And so that's how this all worked. That's the reason why they're doing the shit that they're doing to me here. Because it's the same fucking thing. They tried, now the idiot that they tried to get a protection order on me, they've moved now. Just last weekend. But that's who I have, Yamada, Chief of Police of Harlan, sitting in my living room for an hour and a half telling me how it can't be CIA, how Doug isn't involved with the CIA, how all these people, and then tells me all this fucking criminal past of the people that were involved. That's the reason why I can never release that, because I would get in trouble for releasing it. Because Yamada told me all kinds of shit. So when the protection order first got out in Kent, Washington, I go back home and I go to get rid of these videos. So I started watching them because I wanted to know what the fuck I said, the reason why. That's how I found out that they were all about Doug Mesner. So I go to the Algona Police Department. This is on a weekend because court was on Friday. So Saturday I go and I knock on their back door. And who comes to the fucking door but D'Angelo? And I told him, I'm not taking these videos down. They have nothing to do with the petitioners. They only and solely deal with Doug Mesner, Lucian Greaves, founder of the Satanic Temple. And that dickhead actually laughed in my face and told me, we know, and started laughing at me. So they were all involved. So the shit that I'm going through with Shelby County, Iowa Sheriff Neil Gross is nothing different than what I was going through with Ryan Miller in fucking Algona, Washington. It was the same fucking deal. That's the reason why Thomas Schoenberger says, oh, I hate the police, and how he sucks up to the police. Like him and Neil Gross are fucking circle jerking each other all the fucking time. And it's because the police are involved with it, you know? So now I'm just wondering what I'm going to face on the 3rd when it comes to Social Security. Because Thomas Schoenberger has already said that he's tried to fuck up my Social Security. I know that Tara Joyce, Daniel Dowd, Geo Farnsworth as a group were bragging about how they wanted to fuck up my Social Security. That's the group that I was told by Social Security that there had been a myriad amount of attempts at identity theft considering my Social Security. And so that's what I have to deal with. Yeah, Sherilyn, sorry, I haven't been watching. I'm only going to be on here. This is an hour show today. This is an hour show. And so I'm at 56 minutes, and I'm not going much over an hour. So I haven't been paying any attention to the chat. So I have no idea what the chat's been going on. I've been purposely avoiding it because I came on here for a reason. That email goes to both of us. Sherilyn is my producer, and it's the best way to get a hold of me, really. Because I'm so busy with so much shit going on that I don't have time to actually go on and on and on with all these emails. And I dread my emails. This morning, I had to get rid of Robert Carlson. Wrote me this fucking weird ass threatening email. I don't like to check my emails anymore, you know? But this is just some of the shit that I went through in Algona. And it followed me to Erlin. And from Erlin, especially after that terrorist attack with the Erlin, Iowa gas station, it's followed me to Harlan. And it's just been non-fucking stop. Non-stop. Anybody else would have given up by now. But I do the shit I do because of God. You know? I do what I do because of God. For those of you who appreciate the work that I'm doing, my PayPal and Venmo are just D Shurter. My first initial and my last name. I'm not counting on anything because it never fucking happens. And I'm okay with that. Yesterday was not about donations. I was not angry about donations. In so much, though, that I realized that Isaac Cappy thought they had fucked his PayPal and Venmo up. And really, when it came down to it, nobody was donating because nobody fucking cares. I'm still thinking that this is nothing more than torture porn for most people. It's free torture porn. You get to watch someone in distress talking about the shit that they go on, and it's fucking entertaining. I still hold true to that opinion. Nothing has changed from yesterday. Nothing has changed. It's just that I realize that I'm not doing this for the people who are entertained. I'm doing this because God wants me to do it. I'm telling the truth and exposing it because there are people out there who are going through the same shit I'm going through right now. And nobody gives a fuck about them either. You know? Nobody gives a fuck about them. Nobody's going to care until it's them. And then they're going to be all clutching their pearls because then they're going to find out that nobody gives a shit about them either. You know? I have books for sale, but, you know, again, $30, Venmo, PayPal, D Shurter, but that's only for the United States. I have someone who ordered a book that I have to send to Chicago, but I need the money first to go take it to FedEx because they said they don't get mail through UPS or the Postal Service. And so that's what this video is all about. And I'm not apologizing for yesterday. I'm not. I still feel the same way. It's just that I realize that I'm doing this because God wants me to do it. And so I'm doing it. You know, I'm going to do this because God wants me to do it. I'm supposed to do this. You know, nothing has changed. God is always telling me to do shit that I don't want to do. Flat out. This is just another example. Because to say that I am frustrated with this is beyond. Like and share, but most people can't even do that, let alone give donations. They can't even fucking like things. They can't click a button. You know? They're just... I feel the same way towards all of this bullshit that I did when I was at that first Ivory Garden conference. I sacrifice everything for a bunch of ingrates who don't give a shit. They're entertained. And if it isn't me that they're watching, they'll go to Sewer Town and they'll watch Sewer Town. They'll go anywhere they can to find their entertainment. And that's what I get sick of. It's the whole reason why Fiona's not in this anymore. Because she thinks that nobody gives a fuck. Which is what Aquino told us when we were kids. No one would believe us. And if they did believe us, they wouldn't care. And that's what she believes. That's why she's out. You know? Isaac found that out. Nobody gave a fuck. And then when after they murdered him, everyone went to go hang out with his murderers so that they could still get their entertainment. You know? It's just sad. It's sad. And everyone wants to clutch their pearls. If you say the truth to them and how you feel, they all want to clutch their fucking pearls. How dare you say anything to me? You know? Well, I tell you what. Let's change fucking places. Walk in my shoes for a while and see how the fuck you feel. Instead of hiding safe in your little house, at your little computer that you're safe with, you know? That's... Trade places and see how you feel. But with that said, I'm going to pray because I'm going to finish it with prayer, and then this is over because I want to keep this at an hour. Today, I'll be back in on Thursday. If you guys have ideas of what you want me to do, Sherilyn, if you would please put the email, because Sherilyn is the one who actually talks to me about the things that I need to talk about. And so that's how it works now. I'm not in this all by myself anymore. There is a group of people who actually give a fuck, who actually will do stuff, you know? And so I have to thank God for small favors, basically. Heaven, we come to you as your children. I come to you. I ask that you try to help me become less pissy. I am freaking out about finances right now. And it's not going to happen any other way. I need a miracle from heaven. I need a miracle because it's not going to happen any other way. I am so tired of being inundated and attacked and under all of this stuff. And things have not changed much since yesterday. I don't see the purpose. But I know that you want me to continue doing this, and I am obedient if I am nothing, and so I will be obedient. I don't understand, but then I rarely ever do. But I'll do what I'm told. Not that I won't bitch about it, because heaven knows, you all know me well enough to know that I'm gonna bitch. I'll still do what I'm told, but I'm still gonna bitch. I don't understand. I don't. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. Their directed energy weapons are fucking torture. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being under attack. I'm tired of being worried about where my next dollar is coming from. They are so focused on my finances. They want to destroy my Social Security. They want to fucking destroy my house. You know? They want to do whatever they can. And I'm tired of being entertainment. And that's what I feel like. I feel like I'm entertainment. And then when I'm no longer, people will just change the channel. And it's irritating. It is. But I'll stay with this. Because you want me to, for whatever reason. I thank you for your son, our brother, Jesus Christ. I thank you for the word. I'm grateful that I'm not the vessel for the Antichrist. You know? Thank God I'm not the vessel for the Antichrist, even though some days I figure, what the fuck? You know? What difference would that have made? But I'm frustrated, obviously. And not a little bit disheartened. I just don't understand. I don't. But I'll do what I'm commanded to do. I am obedient. It's what we're called to be. So I'm grateful that you sent your son. I'm grateful that for whatever reason, a video came up last night while I was sleeping that read the whole book of Psalms. And I am grateful because I identified with that in a way that I cannot even begin. You were bringing, I know that everything, you have a hand in everything. And I hadn't read the book of Psalms in a long time. And yet last night, hearing that whole book, I actually woke up in the middle of the night being tortured and listened to it for 30 minutes before I fell back asleep. And I identified with Psalms. That's where I'm at. I am there. I understand Psalms in a way that is just beyond understanding, and I'm grateful for that. It it felt like heaven at least understood my frustration, and so I say this lovingly and gratefully that you sent your son, and for the Book of Psalms. You know, I hadn't, like I said, I hadn't read or even listened to that in a long, long while, and it was helpful to say the least. So I say these things lovingly in your son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen. I will say that the book of Psalms, just, yes, thank you. And you know, some of you in here, I'm bitching, but some of you don't take it personally. You know, don't take it personally. You know that it's not meant for you. You know, it's not meant for everybody. It's not meant for everybody. But some of the stuff that I have to say is, it's not meant for everybody, but for the majority of people. You know, there's a group of you that I appreciate totally. And when I'm bitching, don't take everything I say personally. Because sometimes I'm bitching and it has nothing to do with any of you. It has to do with other, you know. It's just, it's frustrating to be here. It's frustrating to do this. And I'm grateful for the rest of you guys. And like I said, the book of Psalms helped a lot. Helped a lot. That is a chapter in the Bible that people are bitching at God. And it just made me feel like I'm not alone. You know, it isn't about, you know, I'm just, and as you saw, yesterday was only 20 minutes long. I said what I had to say. I was pissed off and I let it go. Well, I didn't really let it go. I was pissed off. So I spent the entire day pissed off. Went to bed at 5 o'clock last night, pissed off. You know, stressed out. Stressed out about cash, along with a bunch of people. You know, tired of the attacks, tired of the directed energy weapons, tired of these fucking child killers. I'm fucking sick of it all. I am sick of it all. But listening to Psalms last night did do my heart some good. It's the reason why I'm here today. You know, because heaven was pushing me and compelling me to keep going. And so I am here. You know, I'm here. And I'll be here on Thursday. Probably the same time. Look for me at 11 o'clock in the morning. If I'm not going to be on at 11, I'll be on at 2 in the afternoon. It'll be that. And then Saturday, I'll do the long one where I open it up and just let people talk. Unless I'm in a pissy mood. Because nobody wants to listen to me scream and yell and bitch at them for 3 hours. Most people can't even take it for 20 minutes. So, all right. With that said, thank you guys. Sherilyn, thank you so much for your help. If you can put the link in there one more time, if there's things that you guys want me to talk about on, it's 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right? If Sherilyn, if you can put that link, if you guys have ideas that you want me to talk about, certain things that you want me to talk about, send that so that I can talk to my group about it. They had to deal with me yesterday too because I was a dickhead. I was just grouchy. So they ended up having to deal with an email from me being a bitch. Because yesterday I was done with all of this. You know? You know, it's funny that you say that because Psalm started and then the book of Job came up. But by then I got out of bed and stopped. But it was funny that you would say that because that's what happened. It read the whole book of Psalms. And when I woke up, it was starting to read the book of Job. You know? That was when I realized, you know, there are others who have had it worse. As bad as I have it, Job had it worse. At least I don't have sores all over my face, you know? And so heaven was definitely counseling me in my sleep last night. But with that said, I'm going to end this so it's a short video. So I will talk to you guys soon. Thursday. Bye.